Welcome everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are on this beautiful earth. We're grateful to be together for session number 22, Reimagining the University in the Age of AI, Communal Wisdom and Higher Consciousness. This is the 2026 MSR Research Colloquium, The Mystical and Research Dwelling at the Threshold of Knowing. My name is Gaëtan Moment. I'm joined today by Angela Chen, who will support the technical side of our time together. If anything interrupts your access or participation, please reach out to Angela through the chat. As we begin, let us take a brief moment to arrive. You might soften your gaze, notice your breath, and allow yourself to enter this session from wherever you are, geographically, intellectually, emotionally, and spiritually. Breathe in, breathe out. Thank you. This colloquium is also an invitation to meet at the threshold between knowing and not knowing, scholarship and mystery, research and lived experience. Across the program, we're exploring how mystical experience may shape inquiry, teaching, leadership, management, organization life, and the research on our journey. In this session, we continue that shared exploration through the work and presence of Bruce Hiebert and Anil Maheshwari. Bruce is deeply concerned with the way AI is transforming our understanding of and ability to use knowledge, and Anil, who serves as a chair-elect of the Management, Spirituality and Religion Division of the Academy of Management, researches generative AI, consciousness, and their application for management and organizational studies. As I was preparing for this session, I have 3 questions, and they're a little bit complex, but that's okay. How is generative AI changing what counts as knowledge, and will the ability to ask transformative questions become more valuable than the ability to provide answers? And it's directly inspired by the layout that you gave. How might universities use AI not only to improve learning, but also to cultivate wisdom, discernment, higher consciousness, and human flourishing? And based on Anil's new title, what would a mystical university, including a mystical business school, look like in practice? What purpose would it serve? What entirely new courses, methods, and form of inquiry would it be introducing? So with thanks to our presenter, our participant, and the MSR Research Committee invite all of you to begin with openness, attention, and willingness to listen to what that may emerge. Bruce and Anil, welcome, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. I'll be starting this, and so let me just share my screen. Be starting with a short presentation, then opening up to Anil, and then we will have a conversation, and then open up to a larger conversation. There is so much to talk about here, and we thought it'd be good to keep this as brief in terms of input and open in terms of conversation as we can do. Title of my presentation is Cultivating Wisdom to Manage the Trickster God, the University in the Age of AI. That is, the world of knowledge has changed, and AI is the source of the change. What I'm arguing is, hang on here, if I can get down a page. Excuse me, I am trying to get my contribute the next page. There we go. That what AI is doing is something profound and powerful and important. And that is, it's reintroducing the trickster God to our knowledge structures. That is, what we've done in our contemporary world, and the university is the tool that we've done to do so, is we've pushed the trickster God out of the contemporary world. We've essentially banished it. That is, rational materialism and empiricism together we've managed to really eliminate through the trickster God. However, and this is the point, when we have large language model artificial intelligence, the trickster God is back. And how so? And so there are a number of points. One of which is that we have the proliferation of the appearance of knowledge, and it really is a proliferation. That is, it doesn't matter where you are on the planet. If you have internet access, you now have access to knowledge at a level that has never been seen before. I mean, there is no question that well, I have argued that the MBA degree, which I've taught for years, is now obsolete. You simply do not need that to be able to function effectively in the business world. Your experience plus AI will handle that quite effectively. The problems are that the answers that AI give appear truthful, they're designed to appear truthful, but are not. That is, they are fictions, they are constructions, they are probabilistic, they are suggestions, and include within them confident hallucinations. So it isn't even that they're just projections and possibilities, but some of the stuff is just wildly lunatic. So that you're getting this whole body. That's all by itself a problem. But what I think else is going on is that it's encouraging good enough thinking. That is, if you relax and pretend that the AI is giving you good information or even giving you knowledge, you easily embed yourself in good enough thinking that is neither good thinking nor enough thinking. That is, you're foreclosing your thinking processes and abandoning critical thinking. And then when you really look at how AI works, you realize if you don't know what you're doing, you can't actually effectively use AI. You have to have a reality grounding somewhere. And that leads me to the role of the university. That is, that when we start looking at the trickster God rampant in our world through a technological guise, but it's still the trickster God, that we now have no choice but to cultivate wisdom. That is, in the technologically sophisticated material rational world, we could simply cultivate technique and get to places that were important. Yeah, we needed wisdom, but we could get by without it. But when you're dealing with the trickster is either going to challenge your wisdom or teach you in such ways you must become wise, because it's not going to give you the answers you're looking for. It will give you answers, but are they the right ones? So now we're in the situation where the university has to begin to really cultivate wisdom rather than just technical knowledge. This involves accepting that tentative nature of knowledge. As a philosopher, this is one of the things I really like about AI, is that it forces us to start looking at knowledge itself with critical awareness and recognize that it's always constructed. Now, ideally constructed solidly with facts that are well organized, and often enough they are, but they're still constructed. And now we're driven back into this issue of the construction itself. So that's a philosophical shift. Then at the same time, we have to start opening doors to other communities of practice and knowledge. One of the things that AI does is it just introduces so many points of view as possibilities, as real possibilities. If we do not know those other communities of practice, if we're not prepared to think interdisciplinarily, interculturally, to recognize elders where they exist, to recognize solid practitioners, to recognize these larger communities of knowledge, the tacit knowledge, as well as other experiential forms, we don't have the grounding then to really know what the AI is giving us. So that's a political shift. Then I think this forces us also to pursue a program of common humanity. And where I'm going here is, if knowledge is now tentative, what do we have that holds us together? And the answer is our problems. Everybody has problems. We all struggle with problems and knowledge and techniques for answering them. And now we have a place to work together. Nobody's answers are going to be the same. And that's been one of the challenges that we have faced for forever. But that doesn't mean we don't share problems, and that doesn't mean that can't bring us together in effective ways. Then also we need to start building seeker communities. That is, knowledge, ideally, I mean, in the realm of the trickster God, you have to seek knowledge. It doesn't just come. You can't just be given it. You must become a seeker as part of a community that is trying to pursue knowledge. And our universities are in many respects that, but they aren't organized around that. And then next, apply AI. That is, we can't avoid it. We have to work with it. And not only that, in the correct context, used wisely, it's a powerful backbone resource that replaces a lot of what universities have done in terms of our gatekeeping around knowledge, instead makes it open if it's used appropriately. And the question becomes, are we applying it as a core resource, which I think we could. As a whole, what I'm thinking is that this means that the primary purpose of the university in the future must be to seek wisdom. That is, what I mean by wisdom is critical insight into and the correct application of knowledge. We used to talk about wisdom as correct application, but now it's something much bigger than that. That is, it has to be good understanding of how knowledge itself exists, where it comes from, how it's produced, what it looks like, the texture, the tacit nature, the applicational implications that are going. Then that's what wisdom is, and that's what we should be teaching, not just the use of formalized knowledge, but that critical insight into the nature of knowledge, that together will allow us to take that trickster God and make it useful. Anyway, so short presentation. I'll turn it back then to Anil to look at from there, and then we can begin to open the conversation.
Yeah. Thank you, Bruce. And the heart of wisdom is simplicity. If I can see ourselves simply, the world simply, that's great. Of course, as my friends remind me, we have to go through complexity to get there. And so some of us have reached that post-complexity simplicity, and we're trying to look back. And even now, with this AI having come to us at this age of physical and sort of the era kind of thing, how do we engage with this notion of AI? But then this whole thing of mystical as being the main title, I said, let's focus on the mystical. We did a thing, Reimagining Universities in the Age of AI a couple of years ago, the similar colloquium that I had organized. And so, it's all fun, a lot of things. We heard many, many things. And AI is now so much more powerful, so much more efficient, so much more accessible, so much, pervasive. So what does it mean to be a university? So the thing I liked is that it's a mystical university. You go there for the mysticism and not for the rational knowledge, like Bruce, you just said, right? Because all the rational knowledge can come through an AI tool. I was mentioning earlier this morning this idea that human resource. I hated this stuff always. Maybe that's why I never became a good at corporate life, because I could not see people as resources, like to be used and abused and bought and sold. But what's a human? The whole ontological aspect of what is a human being. So I'm doing some work on the divine human being. That idea that ontological problem should be solved as human being more divine, which means what is mystical at some level. So that's the idea. The university was probably a place where people went to explore. Even now, I've seen some kids say, okay, why am I going to university? I'm there to explore. I don't know what I want to do. And a lot of parents say, first choose the degree, then you can then later explore. But that's kind of forcing down the mystical part out of the way. And then it's equivalent to forcing innocence and creativity out of the kid by the time they're 5. And say, okay, draw the tree like this, and not like the most colorful flowers and everything else. So this idea of mysticality of the university, it's about the universe, and who knows what the universe is, and that to me is the big one. So let's say what does the university do, and then I'll say what it should do. That's where I will just leave it. So current university is like a big building, Veritas, all the thing where they say, So one thing, they do 3 or 4 things, I would say. One is they instruct, right? So you come here, you said MBA degree, useless or not, whatever, PhD degrees are there. All the sort of degrees are there, and then we instruct. There's courses and there's structured knowledge, some of it from us and some of it from other people. So there's a whole research community, and there is a teaching community, there's a mentoring community, there's a administrative community, whole bunch of things. So, but there's ideas that we teach somehow structured way some knowledge, and it goes with it this idea of credentialing. So this is where the political joins us. The universities are certified to issue certifications, right? Every university's certification is done straight by the legislature. It's not something, a meta thing you can pass and somebody in the Office of Education can give certificates. No, every university's ability to certify that you can do a bachelor's degree or master's has to be given by the state legislature, at least in the US. So it sets up pedigrees, you have this hierarchy of credentials, just like hierarchy of knowledge, hierarchy of instruction, all that stuff. The third thing it does is the idea of social skills, right? People get together, people make friends, people, earlier just to marry out of class, and then it probably still happens. Lots of friendships, lifelong friendships. And there's PLNs. This is one of the learnings from the last time, which is that personal learning networks. So this is like everybody wants to create personal learning network. They keep learning. And WhatsApp has become a good channel even before AI to allow learning. Of course, some people call it WhatsApp University, and it's not hallucinating, but it's actually just what do you call, what's the word for it? It's absolutely bogus. All propaganda and corruption of the mind. And I would say one more thing, that the universities are also research and invention places, stores. Some universities more than others. So repository are there. Of course, the journals. Now journals have been taken over by commercial organizations, but the idea is that it was originally a university function. So those are some of the things, and they used to be Gurukul small places, but now they become very huge structures. So now, where does the university go? I think it'll be mystical future university. It'll be, it'll do some things. What is why? So why? First thing is why. So this is another of those learnings I got from the thing from 2-3 years ago, that I asked the question, kept on asking, why should there be a university? And I was told, a friend, one of my co-presenters, says, because there is unquenchable thirst for knowledge. We have no idea where the thirst comes from, but we want it. No matter how much we want some more. So whether it's AI, whether it's a person, whether it's lying in the ground or it's in a book, I just want more. No matter how much knowledge you give me, I want more. And as you say, like, the more you know, the more the circle of ignorance. So you just want to know. The darkness is bigger as soon as you know more. But there's unquenchable thirst. You almost have to start with this mystical starting point. It's not measurable. Again, we had the session, Jerry, but measurable, then measurable. The thirst for knowledge, how do you measure it? It is there. It's unquenchable. It's infinite at some level. But again, some have more, some have less. Some will call it curiosity. Some will call it some other words. But the idea that is unquenchable knowledge. Then what? Now, this is where I feel that this is not idea of just get some knowledge, practical knowledge, job-oriented knowledge, skills, etc. Learn to be and think and feel and do and have everything. Most important, the be. I was just giving a talk last week at IIT Mandi, and they had this MBCC Mind, Body, Consciousness Conference, and I said, again, similar topic, AI and education, and said, what can I even say? And so what can I say to these people who are like, the top 0.1% of the country's population that are very difficult to get into? And then I asked ChatGPT. They said, very rare, seldom are the students made aware of the difference between knowledge and wisdom, or what is it, intellect and wisdom, something like that. The idea that who we are versus sort of the outside knowledge. So the B part is going to be very unique, and our university, Maharishi International University, has been doing it. I've always imagined it will grow like crazy. We are the home of consciousness-based education. Unfortunately, it hasn't grown. We are facing challenges, financial challenges, enrollment challenges, like other universities. So it's not like the world is sort of lining up to learn how to be. I guess being is sort of there. The kid knows it, everybody knows it. But yet, maybe learn to be while you're still thinking, while you're still doing, while you're still gathering knowledge. So don't lose the core within, right? The spine of oneness within, the spine of connection within. So I've come to that. So this is what the range, right? It's sort of normally We think of, okay, learn to think, learn to critical, even creative, but how do you learn to be that kind of nice, wise person and go beyond? And then how, well, first thing is, we know that great gurus, great teachers are the key to learning, because that opens up spaces that inspire curiosity, that inspires people, right? We always say, because of that person, I have the confidence to pursue something like that. So that great guru, and they said, even Bill Gates did this research, said great teachers are the key to great educational results. So there is that value again, one of those unmeasurable. What does great teacher mean? But it is very inspiring value, which is again a mystical part. How do you inspire somebody, right? And the latest tools, which includes AIs and books and online books. I mean, 15 years ago, I used to go to conferences, and they would say this, all these people, okay, we are developing online tools, online books, etc. Now all of that is gone. So the technology keeps on changing. AI is going to, Khan Amigo sort of doing all this kind of free $20 a month. You can learn all you want. Coursera, $50 a month, you can learn all the degrees you want, most of them. So all this stuff. So, and the when, here, everywhere, online, in person, here and now. So this is where I see the mystical future university is going to be. The question is how, when, what, and what do you feel? I mean, does it make sense? So we don't have answers. Bruce and I, we talked for a little bit the other day, and we thought we'll just leave two polls for you. One is this trickster God, and he was talking about trickster God, and I said, well, this is this. So then we said something. I said, yeah, now we just talk about managing the trickster. First, I said taming. I said, no, we can't tame it. We have to manage it. So that was his talk, and mine is just unquenchable thirst for knowledge. There's a pole that you cannot deny. You can't go beyond why. It just is. We just want to know. So with that, let me stop sharing, and I would love to hear everybody. First of all, let Bruce and I need to ask a question or two.
Yeah.
Okay. So Bruce, you want to ask, or I should ask?
Well, I've got an immediate question. I mean, I have a lot of respect for the mystical, but my experience of it is that it ends up being highly personal in a way that doesn't necessarily open itself to the kind of university experience. And typically also in my experience, I don't know about the everywhere possibilities. It's like, doesn't it have to be aren't there particular places that seem best for cultivating it and couldn't aren't we more shaped by those kinds of things? Like, don't we need more of what we've got but opening it up? I'm curious.
Yeah. Yeah. So, how do we start from where we are and sort of go
Yeah,
broader circles around it? That's
right.
probably the way, right? I mean, this thing carries it everywhere, and the app is there. So I have the Coursera and everything here. So it goes with me everywhere. So that is the part of everywhere access, anytime access. That is what I was coming to. The question is, to me, as I think of, is you said, I'm not sure of mystical, it's subjective, right? Or not lends itself to, go ahead.
That it doesn't lend itself to the kind of rational discussion that universities kind of foster. It isn't that uh, it isn't that it isn't real. I'm not going there by any means, but that it is so intensely personal, the way it ends up being expressed, that it's very hard to bring it into a dialogic space.
It is hard if we think that we have to rationally dissolve. In fact, what I presented, at some level, we understand when we transcend, we're all one. It's the same knowledge. We're just different leaves on the same one tree of knowledge, right? That's why it's the example is tree of knowledge. So the understanding who we are as that allows us to be open and humble to saying, okay,
Mhm.
Bruce is asking this question, right? You're not challenging, but you're honestly expressing your thing about how this works. So this is the idea that we learn from each other rather than sort of holding positions. That position thing that the ego comes. We're a most bounded position. Like, if I'm invested in terms of like prevailing over you because only one of us can win, then that is
Yeah,
one kind of learning. But if there
yeah.
is the idea that I can expand and you can expand, the idea is the nature of life is to grow. That is another first principle that Maharishi teaches, right? So idea is
Mhm.
everybody wants to grow. Now, what's happening is that because of the way the education system has become, we're not growing on the inside. We're just growing into knowledge in the head, like more and
Well,
more.
yeah.
We're just trying to acquire more. We grow on the outside instead of growing on the inside, where I
Yeah.
feel unbounded. That's where I think
Yeah.
the mystical part comes for me.
Right, because I think we're quite together there in that what the AI has done is forced everyone to recognize we're not doing a good job of becoming people. That is, we have technical skills, but we don't have the ability to manage who we are and our relationship to the universe in even a modicum of capacity. That we haven't done it, and it's really clear that things have to, well, I don't know if things have to change, but they should change, profoundly change. Whether it's wisdom or mysticism, we're both recognizing that universities have done a terrible job of trying to create people who are whole in any respect that we would recognize traditionally. It's like we've created technicians for the global capitalist functionalist
System.
system.
Exactly.
You
Yeah,
know,
I'm tempted to interject here with this idea. How did this colleges and universities even come by? In the 1500, 1600, I think, when all this sort of reformation was happening and
yeah,
Protestantism coming, and they were sort of denying the sort of the holistic or absolute authority of church. People were running away from this, and they were so they can't be caught by the church police and killed. And that's why they formed colleges of people. The college is a collection. So intellectuals got together and say, okay, instead of they hunting me down alone, let me multiple people. And they set up this notion of college of people, a college of instructors, and they gathered some students, and that
yeah,
it grew eventually around the same time, 1621, that Harvard set up. And it was the College of Divinity, because the idea was
yeah,
we'll teach
yeah,
divinity, except we teach it not like just by the reading of the Bible. So I'm feeling
yeah.
that this is the, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Well, you see, you're onto something else, which I think is really important, which is that if we go back far enough, the mystical and the technical were seen as together. They were it was the church or the priesthood of whatever the imams gathered. They're the ones that drove the quest for knowledge as a community, for organizing it. And it's like, but at a certain point, that was split apart, and I think to the loss of both sides, but certainly to the loss of broader culture in tearing it out of its value framework, out of its cosmological framework, and placing it in this technical framework as if technology and technique could be adequate replacements. I mean, powerful, but could they replace the human? Could they replace the spiritual? And they
Yeah,
thought
yeah. So,
yes.
so all this Rene Descartes did, right? Cogito ergo sum. Like I think before I am, that separate the me, which is sort of unresolved thing, and let's focus on what I think about. And so the
Mhm.
science, and slowly the notion of science came about, scientists came about, all this stuff, and then the science led to technology, and all of that's become enframed. As technology is something that's been enframed. So,
Mhm.
enframing has happened, and I think that the mystical human being, the little child, which lives probably for 4 or 5 years, really gets enframed in being a responsible social being, corporate social person, this and that. And so we lose the ability to have that. And maybe at this age, after retirement, I feel very liberated. I ask the kind of stupid questions I feel like I need to ask, and then we
Yes.
learn, and that's it. So maybe at this point, we're almost 5:30. If you want to take a quick comment, and let's open up and see what we can learn from
Mhm.
others. And Gitan, if you could even remove the highlights, and and we can just look at everybody. We're only 60, 80 people, and see what anybody has to say. And I would like everybody to share something, because this is a topic that everybody knows something about and nobody knows everything about. So we are all open to learning. So please, we appreciate.
Thank you all. That was a wonderful conversation. Thank you, Anil and Bruce. That sang sparkling so many ideas in so many directions. And thank you for all your comments. The next two sessions, the last two sessions, the first one will be researching the mystical, spiritual research and evaluation criteria with Jian Yun Yu and Chris Laszlo. And then we're going to have the closing plenary, collective reflection and looking ahead. And I think we need to look ahead. We have beautiful experiences coming up. There will be a lot of people there, the MSR leadership team, the Flame Keepers, organizing committee of this colloquium. So thank you again for being with us. We're going to let you go in the waiting room as we set up for the next session. Have a beautiful break.